Good evening, guys. This is Pastor Janet. I'm still a little stopped up and stuff, but I'm going to do this video. My husband just peeked in the door and said, "You going to do the video now?" I said, "Yes, I'm doing it now because I promised." Okay, what I wanted to talk to you about today was about the difference between a novel, a novelette, and a novella. Okay, it's really very simple. Like I said, some people make it difficult for you to understand. I'm trying to bring everything where the rubber meets the road so you can just understand it a whole lot simpler. Okay, so let's talk first about the novel. When you're writing a novel, that means that you're writing a whole story, 50,000 words or more. So when you do your word count, if you're getting close to 50,000 words and you didn't realize that you're writing a novel. And in a novel, there's characters, settings, background, plot. You have a whole amount of time to develop these so people will understand. It's not a short thing. You're going to introduce the characters and you're going to dip into their background and you're going to show the people things about them. That's a novel. It's a broad spectrum. It's a long event. Now, if you're writing, let me go down here. I got my notes here because I have one. Okay, now if you're writing a novella, they often call this a long short story, which means it's 10,000 to 50,000 words. So it can come close to a novel, and you still can take time to develop your characters and plots and stuff like that, so that people can enjoy the story. That's a novella. It's 10,000 words up to 50,000 words. If it's not 50,000 words, it's not a novel. It's a novella. A novel is 50,000 words or more. Now, a novelette, that's 7,000 to 500 words, or as close to 20,000 words that you could go up to. So it's different. And you don't often have time to develop the characters as much as you'd like to in a novel or a novella. So it's from 10,000 to 20,000 words. Okay? And often it's referred to it, like I said, as a long, short story.
Incoming call, pick up the phone. Incoming call, pick up the phone.
Excuse that. That seems to come in all the time. Incoming call. Every time I get on here, somebody tries to call me. I don't know who it is. So let me just decline this because I'm doing this video. Well, so don't worry about it. So it went off. But anyway, so a novel is 50,000 words or more, and the characters are more developed. You can develop your background, your setting, plot, and all that kind of stuff. A novella is a short story of 10,000 to 50,000 words or more. Now, if you get up to 50,000, you're not writing a novella anymore. You're going into a novel. So you're going to have to more develop your characters, your setting, your plot, and all this kind of stuff. Now, novelette, like I said, is 7,500 words up to 20,000 words, okay? And you don't often have time to develop your characters like you would like. It's usually one main character, a single character, and what's going on in that character's life. So you're not delving into subplots or anything like that. You're just totally talking about what this one person's going through or what the story is about this one person. That's a novelette. Basically sticks to one character. You're not going to be having your character move from city to city. It usually takes place in one particular time period or one particular place. It's a novel. It's called a novelette. It's short, to the point. People want to find what's wrong with the character or what's made him like he is and how he got through it. Novelette is a short 7,000 to, what did I say, 7,000 to 20,000 words. Simple characters and no subplots. Okay, now see, I've got a lot of stuff written down because I want to make sure I tell you. Excuse me, it still sounds bad. Okay. And any piece of writing that's longer than a novella, but shorter than a novel is a novelette. Is a novella. Okay, let me get this straight. When I wrote this, I was half asleep. Okay, any piece of writing that's longer than a novella, but shorter than a novel is called a novella. So a novella is it's called a long, short story. Novels, 50,000 words or more. Novella is 10 to 50,000 words. A novelette is 7,000 to 500 words, and it can go up to like 20,000 words, but it's usually, like I said, only uses like one character one plot. There's no subplot. There's not a lot of what's going on like in the novel. There might be interaction between different characters, and like how things cross and make the person like they are. That's a novel. But if you don't want to, some people don't want to write novels. They want to write novellas and novelettes. Now, the novelette is the simplest one. But it sounds simple, but you still have to develop that character. They've got to be able to understand that character, why he is like he is. So you still have to develop him, but you won't be. It usually takes place in one particular setting, one particular time, one particular town. Well, novel, you can travel back and forth to different cities, and have the story continue here and find a subplot over there. So that's the way it is. But now a novella, it's a long short story. You do have a chance to develop your character, but it's not quite as long as a novel, which is 50,000 words. If you're close to 50,000 words, then it's still a novella. But if you go over 50,000 words, then you're heading into a novel, so you have to make sure your characters are developed. You might have subplots and all kind of stuff like that. Okay, so a novella is shorter than a novella is shorter than a novel, but longer than a short story. Short story, remember, 7,500 words up to 20,000. So a novella is more than that. It's 20,000, you go up to 50,000 words. But then once you hit 50,000 words, you have turned over and become a novel. Okay, now, anything else? See, and a novella is usually fast-paced, one central theme. Like I said, that's like a novelette. One central theme, no subplots or backstory or setting location. That's a novella. Novella. It's a short novel, but it's taking place in one particular place. And a novelette is even shorter than that, and usually deals with one character and not traveling back and forth. Now it says here, I noticed that, and I wrote this down, it says a novella. It's shorter than a novel, but longer than a short story. So a novella, you have a chance to develop the characters, but still it's not a novel because you're not going up to 50,000 words. But it's still you could basically call it a novel because you do have to develop the characters, the setting, plot, and stuff like that. But now a novelette, that's different. Try to get those three straight. A novel delves into subplots, characters, pacing, and all this stuff. And a novella does the same thing. If it's longer than a short story, but it's not quite a novel unless you go with 50,000 words. And you still have to develop your characters, and you can have setting and plots. You can move your character, but a novelette is usually one central theme, one setting, one location. So you're trying to explain what's happening in that particular person's and character's life at this time and where he's at and what's going on. You're not moving him from here. Say that his mother died over here, and so he went over to this city, and we meet some of the characters that were in his life in this city. No, you're not doing that. You're staying in one setting, one location, and you're developing that character, just that main character. You're not going into subplots or anything like that. So the novel is 50 words or more. A novella is 10 to 50,000 words. Novelette is 7,500 to 20,000 words. So some people prefer to write novelettes because they like short and they can just deal with one character and they don't have to go into a lot of background, trying to understand the character. You just tell them a nice story and the people are reading the story and just enjoying what you're saying, what's going on, and then you have an ending. But now a novella is like a novel. Like I said, a novella is longer than a short story. So, and you can go all the way up to 50,000 words if you want, but then once you pass that, you're getting more into a novel. And so you make sure your characters are developed, settings, plot, and you can move them around and stuff like that. So that's what this is. So I hope you understand the difference between a novel, 50,000 words or more, a novella, 10,000 to 50,000 words. You can still develop the characters and can still have some subplots and stuff like that, like a novel. And setting can be changed, background can be changed. A novelette is dealing with one particular instance, one particular character, what's going on, and how it's going to be solved. So, but you're thinking that maybe, okay, I'll write a novelette because it's short, it's easier. No, it's not. Because you have to develop that one character as best you can so the people understand them. Now, in a novel and a novella, you have more time to do that through chapters and subplots and characterization and stuff like that. You don't have that in a novelette. That novelette's only 7,500 words to 20,000. So you have to have the beginning, the middle, and the end, and it all has to come together and make sense. So, I hope you understand it. I'm feeling a little better, so excuse my sniffling. Like I said, I went to sleep yesterday. Guys, I forgot you. I'll be honest. I forgot you. I was so tired. And so today I'm feeling a little better. So I'm going to show you what I have on. So just hold on. But I hope you understand this. I'm going to be coming back and talking about more things. I think the next thing I'm going to talk about is flash fiction. I think that's the next one. But I'll check. But anyway, if you think a novel, a novella, and a novelette are something that you might be interested in, and particularly the novelette because it's shorter, wait till you hear about flash fiction. Oh, that's one. If you ever try it, you'll know what I mean. Okay, but I'm going to stop us right here, and I'm going to let you see what I have on. Okay, so just hold on now.